welcome to my channel. My name is Sonia, a self-taught designer, hand letterer, and illustrator. In today's video, I want to talk about copying other artists' work and applying to your own artwork. When I say copying, I don't mean to say directly copy their style, their unique elements into your artwork and post it on your portfolio or social media. This is for practice purposes only. In this video, I want to show you, number one, how do you identify a skill that you want to learn when you are looking through other artists' work? And number two, how do you go about practicing so that hopefully you can master that skill and apply that very same technique into your own artwork. So let's get started. Okay, so for today's video, I want to share artist name Jimbo Bernaus. He is a lettering artist. He does brand identity and murals. So this is his Instagram. So the first thing you want to do before you identify a skill is to find an artist that you personally like and you look up to and go to their portfolio or their social media like Instagram. So this is an Instagram and you could immediately see, just scan through it really quick and you could immediately see he has a very unique style. Again, the purpose of this video is not to copy his unique style or his elements. It's really to understand some of his techniques and see if you can master that technique. So for me, as I was scrolling through his portfolio, I noticed that he uses a lot of textures, you could see here, and a lot of flower elements in his work. And if you just go through some of the pieces, you could see that the way he uses or the way he draws flowers is very consistent. So for me, I would want to learn that technique. So out of all these elements that he uses, I would want to focus on, okay, how do you go about drawing flowers and using the shadows as he's doing it here? Okay, let me see a few other ones. Again, like this one here, he uses a lot of textures as well. And let's see, this one here, he's using a lot of flowers again. Oops, same way he draws it has an outline, and then he's using a shadow above the colors to create that look. Okay, just to show you, I have created a direct copy of his work to kind of learn that technique. This is the one that I created. This is actually posted on my social media, but it wasn't to use his uniqueness to my artwork. It was really one of the challenges that was going on, so that I created a direct copy, and I did mention on the post and got permission from the artist. So this is not, again, something that I represent as my art. This is just for really practice purposes. So this is what I created, and you could see some of the similar elements here. I added similar textures that he did. I used a similar lettering style, but again, the goal is to really just kind of learn one technique and practice that technique. So hopefully you could use that technique into your artwork in a very unique way. So again, going back to what I mentioned before, I want to focus on drawing flowers. So this is the technique that I learned by examining his work, and I want to share how I did that with you. So hopefully this can help you to learn other skills and other techniques by looking at other artists. This is the sketch I did for the earlier piece that I showed you. But again, we're gonna only focus on drawing the flowers for this exercise. So I wanna show you how I go about drawing this, trying to copy his technique. Okay, so that was that. And then this was a reference of this piece. I just wanna show you. It was about this. Okay, and we're gonna focus on this flower. We're trying to mimic you. I just did a really close look here so it's easier for you to see. So this is just a sketch part of the flower. This is the flower that Jimbo has drawn. Again, it is not to directly copy what he does on all his art piece and apply the same thing to your own. It's really to see, okay, how did he draw it? Just learning that techniques. Right? Okay, so first thing I would do is, let's say, okay, One thing I notice is, well, a couple things I notice is, first, he does an outline on everything, number one. And if you look at the outline, it's not monoline, right? It looks like almost some of them are a little thick, some of them are thinner, like an inking style drawing. So I know it's that. Number two, the way he colors, it's actually very simple, but it looks very sophisticated. So how does he do that? Well, number one, he colors the whole thing with the same color. He's not really using any different color, if you notice. It's all pink, but he does make a distinction with the shadowing. If you notice, the way he shadows is, it's not just plain shape like that. He does delicately where it looks like it's really where the sun is touching it. It will only brighten this area, that area. So he does that. He plays with the shadow very well. And also adding that dots create that extra sophisticated look. So that's another one. And last but not least, if you notice when he's done, he adds these textures on top of it. You see those white textures? So again, adding that extra layer, extra touch, right? So those are the things that we noticed. Now let's try to do that. Let's try to mimic it. So I have a sketch. Obviously, it's not as great as his. When you do the sketch, I don't recommend you tracing. The best way to practice is really to look at it and try to draw it yourself. So that's what I've done here. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and try to do the outline. So I'm again thinking this is very smooth, kind of smooth, and it's an inking style. So for me, when I do inking, what works best for me is studio brush. So I'm gonna actually use the same color in this case. I'll just use that color, grab that color, and I'm gonna go to inking, and it'll be under studio pen. So this is the pen that I usually use if I were to do some kind of inking work, because again, if you see, it has that very good, has that little taper at the end. That was the word I was looking for. You could always adjust the brush, but I don't really adjust my brush that much. So I'm gonna just go ahead and use this, control the thickness, and try to mimic this. So let's say I'm drawing a line like that, line like this. It doesn't have to be exactly the same, but I'm just gonna try to do it in a similar way to see how did he do that. Okay, like that. Okay, and then do the rest. Okay, it looks like something like this. Maybe his are a little bit more detailed, like one more layer maybe. And then if you can see the petals, he has somewhere where it's kind of folded a little. So it makes sense, right? When it's on the edges here, it probably is folded a little bit more. So I'm gonna go ahead and kind of add those details too. Something like that, right? So, okay, it looks pretty close. I mean, his outline is line art is a little bit thinner, but you can always, again, this is for practice, so you could just practice again and again. Or if you like the thickness, you could stick with that too. Again, you don't have to be exactly the same. So once I'm done with that, so that's my outline. And I'm gonna get rid of my sketch. And I'm gonna color it. So again, I told you the coloring process seems actually very simple. So that's what surprises me, right? It's very simple, yet it's super, super delicate. So what I'll do is I'll just grab that color. I'm just gonna use the same studio brush. I'm just gonna using the same one. I'm gonna color everything under, so it's gonna be another layer right below that outline layer. Coloring all this. Okay, so we have the same color, right? And then I'm gonna do the same for the leaves. Okay, so we're done with the coloring part. Now, the third element I noticed, as I talked about, is the shadow. And the way he does shadow is very, very delicate. So I'm gonna it's gonna go above your color layer, and I'm gonna create a clipping mask. What it does is basically whatever I color outside the shape of the layer below it, it will not go outside of that shape. What I mean by that, so let's say I have this color layer, I have this color layer, and then I create a clipping mask. I create another layer, create a clipping mask. If I were to draw on that layer, on top of the shapes below it, it's not gonna go outside that shape. That's what I mean. So I'm gonna do a clipping mask, so that's number one. Number two is we're gonna have to change the blending mode. So instead of N, which is normal, we're gonna change it to multiply. What that all means is any layers above or below will all show through like a transparent paper. It will multiply. I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna keep with the same pink and see how it looks, okay? And then I'm gonna go ahead and try to add the shadow. So again, obviously the middle part of the flower is going to be more dark, right? This is, I mean, again, if you think about lighting, how the flower really works. Okay, I'll do that. And then you can see how they make a little wavy. Here, I'll show you more detail here. It'll be more wavy kind of way he adds shadow. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. Okay, something like that. The only thing that bothers me and probably bothers you is the color, right? It is too harsh. So I'm gonna play with the opacity and see if that makes it any better. There you go. You lower the opacity, that's so much better. Or we can even go a little darker, slightly darker in terms of color. There you go. That's a little bit better, right? Okay, so we add that, and if you notice, and then from there he adds his little dots. Okay, seems like it's almost a signature kind of thing. And I'll do the same thing. Okay, like that. Not as perfect as his, but you kind of see that, right? I'm gonna do the same thing on the leaves. So I'm done with that part. And the last thing I noticed is these textures. So there's many ways you could add textures. I think when I did this piece, I just added another layer on top. So I'm gonna go ahead and select the white color, like whitish color. Use a brush that kind of gives that texture. So in my case, I use grain shader, and I will put the description of the brushes in the description box below. I'm gonna use 5B in this case. Okay, there you go. I'm gonna go ahead and create another layer. Maybe make a brush size about this. That's good. There you go. And I'm just gonna dot it like that. Something like this. Maybe over here. Like that. A little too harsh, right? So I'm gonna go ahead and lower the opacity slightly to get a little natural. But there you go. So this is again how I learn some of the techniques used by other artists. Okay, that's it from me. Again, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you want to see more of these, and let me know if you have any comments. Thank you so much for watching.